A gripping new podcast series from 48 Hours titled Candyman, the true story behind the bathroom mirror murder, revisits the real-life account of Ruthie Mae McCoy's strange and tragic death. The story, which inspired the horror film Candyman, made in 1992 and remade in 2021, to this day remains a mystery in the Chicago area. And host Dometi Pongo details the events surrounding the murder.
The story of Candyman is fictional, of course. We all know that saying Candyman 5 times in the bathroom mirror doesn't actually conjure up a killer ghost. But the murder of Ruthie Jean in the movie shares horrifying similarities to the killing of a real person. That woman's name wasn't Ruthie Jean, but Ruthie Mae McCoy.
And Dometi Pongo joins us now. You were saying Candyman. I will not do that. I am too scared
to this
do
day,
that.
I'm not doing it.
Okay, so the movie, The Candyman,
yes,
was based on this case, but those not familiar with the story, let's talk about what happened.
Yeah, so the movie, as mentioned, is, one where you say Candyman. It's kind of like Bloody Mary, right?
Yeah.
You say his name in the mirror. What a lot of folks don't know is that there was a real life element that kind of inspired multiple elements of the movie. And it's actually the story of this 52-year-old grandmother by the name of Ruthie Mae McCoy. She calls police one evening, and says, someone is coming in through my bathroom mirror. I hear something, someone's trying to rob me, something's happening right now. And the dispatcher, understandably, didn't fully understand what was being said. And when police arrive at the apartment, they're not able to actually get inside of her apartment. Well, 2 days later, they come back thanks to a neighbor who wouldn't let up and said, I need to check on my friend. They find her, she had been shot to death 4 times. Now, put a pin in that. Meanwhile, across the pond in the UK, there's a director looking for inspiration for his next film. He reads a short story by Clive Barker, which is about a woman investigating urban mysteries. He then goes to Chicago as he's scouting locations. He finds the story of Ruthie Mae, and then he adds this element of a mirror murder to the film, names the character in the movie Ruthie Jean, when the real life person was Ruthie Mae. And that movie becomes Candyman, which becomes a cult classic, comes out in 1992. And this podcast is about the murder that partially inspired that movie. And it takes us down a path of conversations about public housing, about who gets to feel safe in their own homes, why and how was someone able to climb into a medicine cabinet, and how bizarre this whole case was.
And is that what drew you to this case?
Absolutely. It's based in a Chicago housing project. The movie happens at Cabrini Green, a notorious housing project in Chicago that has since been torn down. But the actual murder happened in Abbott Homes. And it was so prevalent, this idea that you could climb into someone's bathroom through their medicine cabinet, that sometimes folks, just to make sure they were safe, they would leave valuables in the bathroom, just in case someone came to rob them, so that they wouldn't have to come and harm them to get their valuables. Like, imagine living that way. And it really is this story about this infrastructure and dilapidation in these project buildings. That's what drew me to it. I'm from Chicago. I live in New York now. And when producer Morgan Canty with 48 Hours came to me with this idea, I was on board. I was so happy to tell this story.
Well, it is amazing. I started it. I was listening to it when we came in, and
what
it
you
is
think,
scary.
now you locked in?
It is scary, and I am locked in. But you do talk a lot more than just the case.
That's right. That's right. I feel like that was important.
Yeah.
I feel like this is one of those stories where you can't talk about it without also talking about all of these other conditions. I'll give an example. Bernard Rose is the director of the movie. They bring him to Chicago, and he's scouting locations for the film. They were so scared, the Illinois Film Association and his escorts, to take him to this housing project because it was notorious for crime and drugs. And in the podcast, we talked to now Cook County State's Attorney, the outgoing State's Attorney, who was a Cabrini Green resident, who tells us there's love in this community, that it's a community like anyone else where people just want to be safe and raise their families, but they were dealing with all of these different issues. And it dovetails into this issue of, why did it take 2 days for them to actually get in her apartment? Would it have been different if this wasn't an impoverished neighborhood, right? And so we can't tell this story without having those other conversations, but we weave it in, hopefully the listeners agree, masterfully.
You were so good.
Oh, well, thank you.
I cannot wait to finish this. Thank you, and congratulations on getting this out there. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to be here with you, Cindy.
And you can listen to Candyman, the true story behind the bathroom mirror murder, anywhere you get your podcasts.